So as we keep looking at works of art, I'm going to show you another one. Now, many of you know I paint, and I have a minor in art, so I'm just kind of highly fascinated. It's something I do on the side. I don't have to. I always say I don't have to be good at it. I don't have to make money on it like I do with dance. But it's just something that I can love and I can explore. Now, if you look at this painting, this is on a board. And you can see that I actually made these. So I cut the wood and put a panel on it, sanded it to kind of make this beautiful panel board here, and then painted it. These are painted, they're kind of beautiful because of the oil paint. These are painted in oils, which take longer to dry. So some people like the acrylic paints, but I always love the depth of an oil paint. I would say that for me, they're more beautiful in the first function because there's depth to the light. Now, if we look at this, you are looking at a kind of red painting with a green line. But what I chose when I made this piece is two different kinds of red. This is a crimson red on this side, far more blue in this. And this is a cadmium red on this side, far more orange in this color than this color here. So that we see that we would say that this is a warmer red and this is a colder red. Yeah, and that's fascinating, and it's a wonderful thing to think about. Costume designers constantly have to deal with that, with the color choices, because as they're putting things together, two colors might not go well together if we're styling and fashioning something. Or we like the interplay of the contrast between the things, and that's probably what the green line does here also. So again, kind of an abstract painting. I don't think it means anything other than just look at these colors and these forms. And when I look at this, I just enjoy the warm and the cool coming together around this green and the way that contrast happens. Now, I'll show you another painting. Whoops. Here, this one here, it goes this way. All right, now this I did this as a kind of fun little project. It's part of the same series. I think I have about 18 of these that I made and I painted, and they hang on a wall, and they're just compositions with colors. Now this one was kind of fun when I made it because, I could say, look at it in purely the first function, and then you would just simply say, yeah, it's just blue and green and a little black line down the middle of it. But this one, I painted it this way because sometimes people will look at it and say, oh, that means something. And I say, what is it? And they'll say, well, that's the sky and this is the earth. So this is grass and sky and where they meet on a horizon. So immediately then you're moving this more towards a representation where this is no longer just loving the paint and the color in and of themselves, what you might see if we did it this way. But when we do that, suddenly we're thinking meaning. Now, when we get to language, you're going to see that part of that is our language capacity, that when we see things, we want to read meaning, and what is symbolically, could this mean or could this be? We're highly trained for that, and it's actually one of the reasons why we have art, is to create these things that take the place. These, as Plato said, these mimetic moments for that. So that's important, and important for us to look at. But we'll start with that little work of art, and here I can cut to this place in my house where those live, and you can kind of see, well, at the very bottom you can see the blue one, just the very top of it, and you can see that there's a nice sculpture that sits in front of them here in this photo. But again, first function, they're just color and shape and design, and we're to appreciate them in that way. If we see meaning, we're usually bringing meaning to them, because I didn't intend for much meaning other than the first function meaning. I'm going to show you just some other pictures here. This is a friend of mine, Tad Mike. And Tad Mike is a visual artist, and he was also trained as a pianist but makes his money as a visual artist. And at some point, he decided to quit painting with brushes, and he started to make paintings with objects that he found. So you can see here's branches and acorns and leaves and sticks that he was picking up these things. Here's him playing with colors and deciding on some colors for a new series of paintings that he wanted to make. Yeah, and again, choices. And probably he fell in love with these colors in the first function. That I love that vermilion is really a beautiful color there. Yeah, um, there, and you can even see here he's got some poppy leaves that he's just kind of thrown on a canvas and taken a picture of. Looks like a great Instagram post, but again, he's just appreciating the colors and the forms and the composition here. Here's him playing as he listens to music, making markings in his book. And then this is one of his typical paintings. I think this was made from that acorn shell, just taking it and dipping it and going back and forth with that. So this is a work that he's done with that acorn shell, and it's quite abstract and beautiful. Most of his stuff ends up looking like a texture that you were seeing. So his paintings have a feeling to them, that they look like you could feel them, and that's part of it. Yeah. So that's kind of wonderful. Now, in this lecture, I like to talk about accessibility and aboutness, because sometimes if I use my examples of my baseball piece and my dance flow, sometimes people they like the baseball piece because, oh, I know what it means. I get it. I get it. Whereas sometimes an abstract work, people don't know how to look at it. And I often say that if you're looking for a second function meaning in a first function work, like if you're looking for what does this mean, it might not mean anything. It's just what you see there. And so that can confuse people because they're looking for meaning where meaning doesn't exist. Yeah. And so that can be a kind of complication. They're not appreciating the movement for itself and the flow of a dance called flow. But when they get to the baseball piece, they probably pick up on how the beauty of the movement, the gracefulness of the dancers, but they like the fact that there's a story. The thing I like to say about that is that a lot of things that are beautiful in life, we see the beauty in the first function. A sunset is like that. Yeah, there's a moment where we just look up and we say, oh my God, look at the sunset. The moon is like that. When the moon is at a beautiful moment with a beautiful light, and we say, oh my gosh, look at the moon and look at what we see out there. But a sunset is something that is kind of astounding in the first function. Now, if we were going to see it in the second function, I wrote this just because it's like, this is what a scientist might say. If they were just in their scientific postulative thinking, they would say something like, at this moment of the day, sunlight takes a longer path through the atmosphere than it does at the middle of the day. And yes, look, as the light takes this longer path, violet and purple light is scattered out of the beam. So that is why there is so much more red and orange color in the event called a sunset. And I'm stunned by this because during the middle of the day, the opposite is true, and there's more red light scattered. And that is why the daylight sky is blue. And I'm startled and have noticed this event because blue and red are at different ends of the spectrum of light. And since this is one of the best sunsets, then the clouds must be high in the atmosphere, because that is usually what happens. Okay, that is a lot of words to describe the beauty of a sunset. But you can see that that's a postulated way. And a lot of times the beautiful things in life we see in their first function. I sometimes like to say even things like diamonds. When you pick diamonds, there's 4 first functional elements that we deal with. We deal with the color of the diamond, we deal with the cut of the diamond, we deal with the clarity of the diamond, and we deal with the carat, how big the diamond is. Those are the things that give it its value, and those are first functional elements. So usually we look at something like this. This is a picture of a sunset I took on the water in the Florida Keys. And we look at this and say, oh my God, look at the sunset. And I'm gonna jump here really quickly because I wanna show you another picture. And this is a fascination because I happened to be in a plane coming back from Florida. I don't think it wasn't the same trip with the other sunset, but this was the sunset out of the window of the plane, and it was just this beautiful, beautiful event. And so I snapped this photo with my 35 millimeter camera. I had a camera with film. I think this was a slide film even that I took. That's one of the reasons why it's kind of beautiful. And that now that's the one picture. The picture on the other side here, the picture on the right, what I did was I decided, what would this look like in the first function? Could I make an abstract painting? And all this is me picking each of the colors. And from this, so I picked 25 different colors that are in this other photograph. And I made 25 different squares with the black square around it. Yeah, so first functional. Here's a more second functional representation. Here's a more first functional representation. And both we probably say we see them so beautifully in the first function.